Welcome to another day of vlogmas. I am sitting here in my car at my studio, preparing myself to run through the rain to unload some stuff that I have for my day here. And it has been raining for 3 days straight almost, with not a break. So anybody that doesn't know about the Pacific Northwest in the United States, especially if you live anywhere near the coast, we get a lot of rain. And we are getting our rain right now in the winter. Some places get snow, some places get really cold, chilly, snowy weather. We get days and days and days of rain. Our yard is flooded, our town is flooded. It'll subside. We've had a really high tide this morning, which means all the rivers, all the streams, all the marshes just fill with water. It's supposed to stop tomorrow, which might be a nice break. And while I'm here at my studio, checking off my list, getting stuff done, I thought I would roll in a fun little process that I love doing when it rains. So the first thing I need to do is get myself from my warm, cozy van into my studio, unload all the junk that I have, and try my best to stay as dry as possible. It's probably not going to happen. Then we'll jump into all that creativity. All right, so I am going to be collaborating with the rain, and this is a really fun process no matter your age or skill level, and it requires using either watercolors or anything that is water soluble. I'm going to be using some watercolors, some gouache, as well as some Crayola markers. So anything that's going to dissolve if you add water to it is going to work for these surfaces and for this process. And what I like to do is actually set aside a handful of papers. Usually I am using watercolor paper for this because it is made for wet media. It can handle a lot of water on that surface. And I will just start with a bunch of really messy backgrounds. Sometimes they're solid, sometimes there's a couple colors on that surface. Sometimes things will be really bold and saturated with color, while other surfaces I keep really light and translucent. The sky is the limit when it comes to using watercolors in a background filled with color. You will notice in my own examples, I'm letting things be pretty expressive. You can see my brush strokes in there. My main goal is to just get color on that surface and let them dry. Now, in my own process, I will use surfaces like this once they are completely dried as surfaces that I can draw over the top of. I can add to the pages of my art journal. There are colorful papers that I can use in collage. But later on in this video, I am actually going to select a few of these papers to transform into holiday gift tags. So I am really picking colors that I can use around the holidays or at any point depending on the different projects that I have. And I couldn't help adding a few surfaces to the mix with some Crayolas, some really simple doodles, shapes, scribbles, and designs. And while I don't do this all the time, when there is a lot of rain and when I'm wanting to explore things in a unique way, I will maybe create, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 loose papers that I can play around with on a rainy day to create some really unique, colorful backgrounds. So once my initial layer is dry with that watercolor paint, I set up a little area outside my studio. I've just got a scrap piece of cardboard with some plastic on it. Trash bag will work for this. Anything you can set those surfaces on is going to be helpful when things start to get wet, kind of soaked with water. I like to let my watercolor layer first dry quite a bit, if not all the way, and then I will bring those surfaces out into the rain. And then I will just let the rain do what it does best. Drip drop all over those colorful surfaces and obscure and change everything within that color. And I have found after doing this for many years that there's kind of a little bit of an art to this process. If you leave things out for too long, the color will completely disappear. That surface will get so wet that that color will just wash away. And so I like to kind of keep an eye on it. I like to let those raindrops obscure things just enough so that I'm able to maybe get some raindrops in there, or maybe some beautiful blends and blurs within that surface. And then once things are dry, completely dry, I use a lot of these surfaces to create with. Something to note about watercolors, if you are new to them, is they often will dry a little bit lighter than they look when they are wet. And so that's kind of a fun thing to play off too, especially if you like drawing or working over the top of a watercolor background. Now, what I'm actually going to do is use some of my own homemade stamps to alter a few of these surfaces and transform them into homemade gift tags. I have a huge collection of my own hand-carved stamps. These ones were made from erasers. I actually have a little class called Stamp It Out that I will put in the description box in case any of you all are interested in seeing how I create my own, but I typically almost always use my own stamps in my creativity, but I'm picking a few designs that I will use on my surfaces. And then I'm just going to be using a couple of ink pads. I will put my supplies in the description box as well, but I like the Ranger archival ink pads as well as the Stays On brand of ink pads. They are permanent. You can use them on a variety of surfaces, and I tend to really like just that black ink when it comes to a lot of my stamping. So what I like to do is just add another layer to the top of these watercolor backgrounds. I actually pick the ones that were quite light. I will use some of those darker backgrounds for other projects, but the lighter ones, especially where the rain obscured a lot of that color, are really fun to work over the top of. If you're somebody who likes doodling or drawing, if you like what I'm doing here, which is, some sort of stamping or creating pattern paper, the lighter color really works well because both layers are going to show through. You're going to see some of the variation in the color. You're still going to see some of the places where those raindrops are, but you're able to add another layer to the top of things. And anytime you are working with layers in your art, I say this all the time in the classes that I teach, but the best advice I can give is to always keep contrast in mind. I like to always have a push and pull between a background and a foreground, between different layers in color. So I often reach for the color black if I am working over the top of color like this, because it's going to stand out quite well on a busy, colorful surface. And my only goal for this process is to just add a few of my stamp designs all over my surfaces. I know these are going to get cut up, so they will get obscured a little bit even more. I just wanted something that felt like pattern. So I kind of pulled a lot of my more little simple floral design stamps and just scattered them all over that surface and tried to create some kind of interesting collection of designs and pattern. So then I have some sheets of paper that I can then work with when it comes to creating some homemade tags. While I don't always collaborate with the rain and my watercolor surfaces, it is a process that I love to kind of incorporate here and there on rainy days or days and days or weeks when we have a lot of rain. It is something that kind of makes me appreciate even when it gets rainy and dark and gloomy. And it's just a fun way to incorporate an element from nature or weather into my artwork and my surfaces. You'll notice a lot of these surfaces and that color is quite subtle, and that's what I'm personally going for, is just having this sense of play in a process and seeing how far I can take things. I absolutely love having my own little collections of paper, of patterned surfaces or surfaces with interesting designs on them that I can cut up and use in a variety of different projects. And these are perfect to use because they get covered up quite a bit. You're going to cut them up and turn them into something new. And so incorporating that rain is kind of a fun way to infuse that into a project like this. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is transform these into gift tags. I have 3 nice little sheets of paper. They are thicker because they're watercolor paper. We've got color, we've got that pattern, but we are going to cut these into strips and use a tag punch to create some really unique holiday gift tags. Something to know about me, if it is not already clear, I am that person in the family that will always give or incorporate some sort of handmade element into any gift that I give. It is the way that I show love. I'm truly convinced it is my love language at the holidays. I love making things for people. And if I don't have time to make a handmade gift, I always try to make sure that I have some kind of creative element even incorporated into wrapping those presents. And you can use strips like this or scraps to either cut up and use a hole punch to add a hole and a ribbon, season. You can turn little scraps like this into tiny little labels or things you add to those gifts. But I really like pulling out my tag punch, which is one of my favorite little supplies that I have around the studio, because you can use it to easily punch the top of all those strips and transform them into a tag that has a little bit more of a decorative edge and that hole at the top. I love this punch so much. You can see I've got 3 different sizes on that tag punch, 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches, and a 2-inch strip that it will work from. And you're just gonna pop it in, punch it, and you can quickly turn out a lot of these different tags. I got this years ago and it's changed my life, particularly during the holidays, but I actually use it year round because I like incorporating tags or bookmarks into my art journals. Using scraps in this way is a really fun way to repurpose and make use of things that might otherwise get thrown away or recycled. So note to all those people out there who save scraps, this is a fun way to put them to use for any kind of gift any time of the year. And really quickly, I've got this large stack of tags that I will be putting to use in my own gift wrap and gift giving this holiday season. I've got colors that aren't so traditionally holiday or Christmas themed, but I love doing that too in my own wrapping. I will often add a bow, a ribbon, or even some decorative string or cord to these types of tags and really have fun with the way that I wrap gifts for the people in my life. While I don't always have time to hand make all of my wrapping, I have found that a handmade little tag or a small card is such a wonderful way to personalize a gift any time of the year. For anybody looking for more inspiration when it comes to handmade tags, I did release a $10 tag class, 10 lessons for $10, as well as 10 downloads from yours truly with my art turned into tags if you want to explore that concept of getting creative with those tags in a variety of different ways. Again, this is what I use in my life during the holiday season. It's kind of fun to share that with others out there to inspire you to maybe make use of scraps and things that you already have on hand. I hope this little video and process inspires you not only to get creative with nature, with the weather, but also to get creative in little small special ways when it comes to the holiday season and the way that you put your art and creativity to use for those around you.